Now that we're done with frames 2 and 3, we can go on to frame 4, which looks like this, but in the video looks like this.
Personality. Whether you want to go bold, subtle, or anything in between, you have the power.
Super easy text moves and some flashy editing with some different clips. And as I said before, frames 2 and 3 was really the peak as far as the tediousness, the detail. Everything's downhill from here now. So we can get this frame 4 done pretty quickly. So let's get started.
Whether you want to go bold, subtle, or anything in between.
Okay, there's the voiceover part. And the subtle background can be moved back here. So bold and then subtle. And we're switching those out. And this is just placeholders right now.
Whether you want to go bold, subtle.
So about right here, we can expand this out to the waveform. So that's where the word subtle starts to happen.
Subtle.
There we go. So just add these right here. Select these two for the bold and the bold background, and then Alt right bracket to cut those. Here's the thing. Here's an interesting, cool thing about After Effects. I'm being sarcastic. So right now, if I wanted to, so say the play was right here. If I wanted to move the playhead to the end point of these two layers, I hit I, moves it, right? There we go. Now if I zoom in the timeline, just to show you by hitting plus, these are individual frames right here. That's why it's got that checkerboard stripe look. If I wanted to make sure that these layers ended at the same time as these layers began, you would assume I would hit Alt right bracket to put the ending right there. So if I do that, Alt right bracket, look what it does. It actually puts the end of these layers after. So one frame after really what you would expect. I want the end of these layers to be right here where these begin, but for whatever reason, the out point of these layers, the end of them, when I hit Alt right bracket, puts it one frame more than what I would want. So if I want this to be a straight cut, I have to know that I actually need to go back a frame and do Alt right bracket so that they end right as this begins. Super annoying, makes no sense. Because if I do, if I do the Alt left bracket to set the end point of these layers, look what happens. It does exactly what I want. It puts them at the playhead. It cuts them at the playhead. So just know that part of After Effects. One more, whatever you want to call it, character trait of After Effects. Doing hard cuts like that is should be easier. Anyway, so I want to make sure I have this cut happen right at the same time as the voiceover. So I used
Whether you want to go bold.
I used the Alt right and left bracket to set those in and out points for those layers.
Whether you want to go bold, subtle, or anything in between.
And this is just roughing the timing out really. So right as he says bold,
You want to go bold.
This is where I'd want the bold text to show up.
Whether you want to go bold, subtle, or
and really have the subtle end right there too.
Whether you want to go bold, subtle, or anything in between.
Now you can see this background for the subtle text is actually different in the spot. I personally think it's better what is happening in the spot. So, this was just for timing, and we'll change out the background as we put the clips in.
Whether you want to go bold, subtle, or anything in between.
So this is great. We have it all roughly timed out now. We just need to drop the clips in and do some animation for the text. Go into the stock video. Let's see and find these clips. This one's nice right here. So command left and right arrows lets you go frame by frame. You can't do just left and right arrows because if you have a layer selected and you do that, it's going to actually move the position of that layer in the composition with left and right arrows. So holding down command and left and right arrows is how you can go frame by frame in After Effects. So I'll make that the end point. See, I can't actually hit the left bracket in point right here because the out point is beyond the next in point. So I just need to grab that and extend it out again. So I can do that. There's the in point right there. I think both of these clips really, this whole thing right here is pretty nice. So I'm going to set the out point right here and use the overlay edit button right here. Drop it in. There we go. Great. I'm going to recreate this text with the text tool and do that tracking move that we did earlier. So the next clip right here, go back to the stock video, move this down. Like that. Perfect. Oh. Here's a nice thing to know about After Effects. An actual nice thing, I'm not being sarcastic. So if I wanted to if I wanted to keep the duration the same of this clip, but slip it, like kind of, I want this part, I want her to be looking at the camera right at the end of this, but right now it's like maybe a second off, She hasn't really hit looking at the camera. I'd like her to do that before. So what I can do is actually use Y, the anchor point tool that we typically use for the anchor point. But if I have it in the composition timeline right here, you see how the icon changes. And what that does is it actually lets me, that's called slipping. I can slip the clip and keep the same duration, the same in and out points, but I can move the clip and really finesse where I want this to be. So now I've moved that clip a little bit down the timeline, but kept the same in and out points so that I can have her looking at the camera right as it cuts away. And now the in point's going to be different, but really I care about this part right here the most. So this is a nice little editing tool that you can use in After Effects. It's also in Premiere. There we go. So I slipped it. I slipped it a little bit so that I can get that nice little look at the end before it cuts away. And it can be the same thing for this too. There's a little bit, this kind of,
Whether you want to go bold, subtle,
I don't know, there's a little bit here. I think that this maybe goes on too long, and then this part right here gets cut off too quickly. So I want to slip this clip as well, because I want more of the shoe to be hitting when it says bold. There we go. But now I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to slip it back. Yep, there we go. So there's some nice little editing tricks in After Effects. You can do a good amount here just to cut clips together. Cool. There we go. Awesome. Now he's got to recreate the text and do a quick text animation. So first of all, we'll do the bold text. Okay, go to the text tool, put it on here. Lower mirror number 2. That's close enough. Just gonna kern this a little bit. There we go. That's holding down Alt or Option and doing left and right arrows to do that. So I hit I just there to send the playhead to the endpoint of that selected layer, go into the text layer, Alt left bracket to cut it, back down here, out, and then Alt right bracket to do that as well. To be fair, After Effects does, when you send the playhead to the out point of a layer, it does do that. It puts it in that one frame before the end. It doesn't do this. It does this. Just so you know. And then before I animate, I just want to make sure that the anchor point's right in the middle, or at least close enough in the middle. So holding down Y, or hitting the Y button, I move the anchor point. I go to the Animate menu, add tracking amount. That's the end. That's where I want it to end. So then do that. That's nice. And then scale, same thing. Have that be the end. Maybe like that. Maybe the scale could last a little bit longer than the tracking. So I hit U just now, so I have those two properties revealed. Yeah, actually, this is nice because then have it kind of slowly scale down, relatively slowly, compared to the tracking. And then one more thing I want to do, which is a nice philosophy just to carry forward. I'm going to use the movement of this word going up to help cut transition to the subtle as a subtle kind of. So what's going to happen is this is going to move up at the same time as this will be doing this. So it'll start down and then come to right there at the same time as this has moved up to cut away. So it's a nice trick of the eye to help transition hard cut text or elements, really, anything. It's a really nice philosophy to know about because it kind of tricks the eye. It eases the transition by having the same motion between two different things. So I'll hit Shift P to add position, hit a keyframe, and I'm just going to have it move up like that. And then in the graph editor, this one is the only one that's going to be moving up because it'll be cut away by the time it hits. Yeah, see? Yeah, see how it accelerates up like that as it cuts? It's going to be really nice to have the subtle shoot in the same way, but from below, in that same velocity. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'll change that color real quick. Okay. Awesome. And we don't have to really have the subtle do the same tracking scale move. We can just have it moving up and settling into the middle. Here's a great a guide to know about. It's right here. Title/action safe. It's an overlay. Back in the day, quick history lesson, when there was tube TVs doing everything, a lot of the times, because it was analog, the signal would get blown up. It would get scaled up as it was broadcast. So making sure that you didn't have anything happening that was important in these title safe areas is why these things exist. Obviously it doesn't matter anymore because we're all digital. But this overlay is really nice. It's just kind of a visual guide to see what's around. And it's got this crosshair in the middle. That's really helpful. So you just know exactly what the middle is. Okay, great. And so for subtle, it's really just going to be moving down into that position, but with the same type of graph editor velocity. you can see if I select both of these, if I select the position animation, it accelerates out, and the position animation for subtle accelerates in. So putting them together looks like a typical animation that you would do for anything. It's just split up between two layers. So it helps to do that for your eye. It helps to ease those transitions by matching that motion across different layers. There we go. I will say, I think this one needs to be faster or something. Let's see. Maybe slower, actually.
Whether you want to go bold, subtle, or anything in between. Whether you...
There needs to be some kind of out point. Out, like something that it does to move out to, though. I think actually it could pause for a second and then shoot up in the position as it cuts away. So I'll actually just hit a keyframe on the position right here to kind of give it a pause, and then accelerate this out or up as it cuts away, and then go back to the graph editor. You can see what's happening here. We want this one to accelerate out like that. Yeah. That's too fast, but the idea is there. That's kind of nice. And just for fun, last thing, I'm just going to have this slowly move in scale and slowly shrink across the whole duration of this, just to give it some more motion, but subtle. There we go. That's great.
Whether you want to go bold, subtle, or anything in between. Whether you want...
And how's that look in here?
Whether you want to go bold, subtle. Unleash your creativity with the mobile Adidas app, where you can customize the colors of your personality. Whether you want to go bold, subtle, or anything in between.
That's it. That's frame 4. On to the next one.